Good morning. I don't think y'all are out there. Let's try that one more time. Good morning. There you are, my friends, and my friends online as well. Um, my name is Chrissy Kim. I use she, her pronouns. I serve as one of the members of your board of trustees. And I'm happy to welcome you today to Tahoma Unitarian Universalist Congregation. Longtime members and new visitors alike, you are welcome here. Whether you are joining us here on site in the sanctuary or online from another location, we're glad you are here. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders, and love is the power that holds us together. You are welcome here just as you are. If this is your first time with us, I bid you a special welcome. I'm so glad you found your way into our community. After the service, I will be in the back of the sanctuary, right over about there, after I grab some coffee, of course, to answer any questions you have about Unitarian Universalism, about our congregation, or if you just want to talk about how to get involved more in our community. Please feel free to join me. For those of you here in the sanctuary, we have a hearing assistance system and devices and large print hymnals available in the back of the sanctuary over in that area. And our ushers would be happy to help you with those. For our service this morning, our online chat chaplain will help guide our online folks. And for those of us on site, we will be utilizing the screen behind me to project the words for our unison readings and lyrics for our hymns. You can also follow along with the printed order of service. Also on the order of service, you can find information about our website, tahomauu.com, and some upcoming events and volunteering opportunities. And also a QR code. I don't think that's on it this week. That will take you to our e-news. It is there. Awesome. If you aren't signed up for the e-news yet, you can do that today so you don't miss a thing. And for those of you waiting for the e-news, be patient. We had such grandiose plans to get all caught up this week, and then everybody got sick. So we've had a lot of folks down with COVID, with sinus infections, with just general colds. And so our lean staff of paid folks and volunteers has gotten even leaner. So we are hoping to get an e-news out soon. I have a lot of announcements later today since we didn't have one for a few weeks. There's so much happening here at Tahoma UU, and I'm going to highlight a few of them. So thank you for your continued patience as we continue to update our website and get the e-news out. We were foiled with the rash of illnesses last week from our admin to board members. Sharon, our faithful office administrator, is homesick today. So we will have to postpone the celebration that we had planned to have for her after the service this afternoon. She will be staying on for an additional 5 hours a week in that limited capacity through the end of February to help us out. The Trans Relocation Committee is thrilled to announce our first fundraiser on Saturday, February 24th. So you should see some of these flyers up and around. If you have one that you want to take somewhere, I have some extras, happy to pass them out. We're hoping to raise enough money to pay for an Airbnb for a family who needs to relocate due to anti-trans legislations in other states. We're hosting a drag queen story time at Pierce College. There will be some singing and a small silent auction. And speaking of auctions, our annual auction that has been on hiatus for a few years due to COVID is returning, and we are now in the planning stages for that. So please see Sheila Wybrow to help with the planning for that event. Or Teresa Hall. Thank you. The Pathways to Membership class will be held on Saturday, March 16th from approximately 8:45 to 12:30. If you became a member in the fall but missed the class, feel free to join us. Attendees will get information about our denomination, the governance of our church, expectations of membership, activities and programs, and have an opportunity to connect with other newcomers. A continental breakfast will be served. Please contact admin@tahomauu.com for registration. And then we had the T from the newsletter from the board. So we wanted to let you know that the board voted to extend Reverend Crystal's contract for another year and to increase her to 3/4 time. We are increasing her contract on faith that the pledge drive will support the additional cost. So we're going to rally, and we have an auction coming. So fingers crossed, we'll be able to do it all. We also wanted to let you know we have proposals in for the comprehensive building inspection, and we'll be getting that done shortly. And our congregational certification was submitted to the UUA as required each year, with a total membership of 115 and total operating expenses of $194,027. All right, so be watching for the e-news to find out more ways to become involved and deeply connected with our spiritual community. For those of you here in the sanctuary, you are invited to join us for coffee hour after the service. There'll be coffee and refreshments over to your right. It's a great time to catch up with an old friend or get to know someone new. For those of you visiting or who are newer to our community, there are red mugs available for you to choose over the white ones if you want to chat. And the red ones hold more coffee. Okay, I respectfully acknowledge that I speak to you today from the land of the Coast Salish people, including the Puyallup Tribal Nation, land from which they were forcibly displaced. I affirm the continued sovereignty of the 574 federally recognized tribes, including the 29 here in Washington, and others who are still fighting for federal recognition. I acknowledge the theft, violence, trauma, and racism that Indigenous people have experienced at the hands of colonizers from 1492 through the present day. I honor the resiliency of the Indigenous people and stand with them as they continue their fight for land, water, visibility, sovereignty, and their very existence. Lastly, friends, I invite you to set your electronic devices to worship mode. We gather here, one community, together. Let us settle ourselves into this holy moment and open our hearts to learn and unlearn, to share and receive. Now, let us join together in worship. Thank you, Marianne. And I was reminded earlier this week that it is now light until 5 p.m. So the sun is returning. Our opening words today come from section 2-2.2, Values and Covenant, UUA Article 2 Study Report. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. I would like to invite up David Ray to light our chalice this morning. Thank you, David. And now if you will join us. Oh, there it is. I got there a little late. It's all good. If you will join us for our chalice lighting words, which there they are on the screen. Woo woo. We light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who have gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for the generations to come. And that brings us to our opening hymn. So please rise in body or spirit as you are able to join us in our round. It's number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. We're going to sing it once through, everyone all together. And then our trusty song leader this morning, Doug, is going to start my left, your right side of the church on the first part of the round, and I'll cue this side for the second. And we'll sing that through twice as a round. So total of 3 times.
Everybody. Come, come, whoever you are, wonder, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Oh, it's still me. All right, so I would invite those that are young and young at heart to join me at the front for Time for All Ages.
Just hold it
We're having a little bit of technical difficulties this morning. Oh, it's so wonderful to see you all up here. I see some new friends, some regular friends, some returning friends. Thank you. Yeah, so it's so wonderful to see you all up here today. Our time for all ages this morning is a little bit different. We have a video that we're going to watch, and we're going to stop and chat a little bit partway through. But what I wanted to start with is, do you know what a promise is? Yes. Yeah, who can tell me what a promise is?
A promise is something that you keep and you can't break or the other person will get mad at you.
All right, and you have something to add?
So a promise is something that you're gonna do no matter what. Sort of.
You have something to add?
A promise is like when someone has like a secret and they don't want anyone to know, they'll ask you to promise that you won't tell anyone.
Yeah. Oh, and over here. And one thing about secrets and promises, though, they're a kind of a special kind of promise, I think. And sometimes you have to use your judgment because sometimes we have to break those promises, or maybe it's better even to not make them, right? Because if we know somebody's going to get hurt and they want us to keep that a secret, then we need to tell a grown-up, right? Even if they tell us that they want us to keep it a secret. But usually, it's okay to have secrets between friends.
A secret is it's like when you give a promise and a promise is like swear you like never ever like break it, or a secret is like you never ever tell anyone.
Thank you all for that. So we're going to listen to a story about somebody who makes a promise and something happens. So Michael, would you start the video, please?
This is a story for the young people joining us today, but the older folks are welcome to listen in. I want to tell you a story about a young person whose name was Terry. Now, Terry was a very happy young person. They liked to dance and they liked to sing. They liked to go to school and be with their friends. They liked to play with their puppy and help their dad fix dinner. Typical young person stuff. One day, Terry made a promise to their friend Jerry to go to their house to play after school. Terry made their promise while they were at church. Jerry and Terry didn't go to the same school, but they lived in the same neighborhood. But the next day, Terry went to school and got busy. They went to art, and they had lunch, and they went to reading and finished their math. And then they rode the bus home. But when Terry got home, they totally forgot they were supposed to go to Jerry's house. They saw their puppy and started playing with it, and they talked to their mom. And suddenly, the phone rang, and it was Jerry. Jerry was very upset. They had been waiting and waiting for Terry to come over, but Terry had never shown up. Terry had broken their promise. Have you ever had a time when you broke a promise? Maybe you promised to spend time with your friend like Terry, or clean your room, or write a letter or an email, and you didn't. Maybe you forgot. Maybe something more important came up and you didn't have time. But no matter the reason, you didn't keep your promise. How did you fix things when that happened? Did you say you were sorry? Did you do whatever it was later? Did you find someone else to do it instead? What do you think Terry should do?
There we go. We're going to pause there for a minute. What do you think Terry should do? He was supposed to go to Jerry's house. He forgot. Jerry's really mad at him. What do you think? Let's see. Somebody who hasn't talked yet.
I think I've never been in this situation, but I think that Terry should just, now that he remembered, he should go to Terry's house now.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, Jerry's house.
No, that was the same thing.
That was yours? Okay. Well, I was looking to see if somebody who hasn't talked yet wanted to talk before I go to those that talked the first time.
He should say, I'm sorry.
All right.
He he should have said that he was sorry and forgot because it happened like in the morning, and there was like a whole day that played out. It would make sense for him to forget. It would so he could apologize and say he'll try to remember next time.
Okay. What do you have?
He should have not had made the promise.
You shouldn't have made it in the first place.
So he should have just, if he forgot, he should have just went right away to it. Just
And you know what? Pronouns are hard. I noticed in the story that Terry was a they instead of a he. And I've been hearing lots of he, so I just want to make sure we remember that Terry's a they.
Terry should have said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'll be right over."
All right, so we have lots of ideas. Last one.
I think that he should have made a note about it in the morning just in case he forgot it.
So some strategies to help remember. So let's go back and see what they did.
Terry was upset about their promise. They didn't mean to hurt Jerry's feelings, they just forgot. So Terry apologized. Jerry was hurt, but accepted Terry's apology. And after the phone call, Terry talked to their mom. Mom asked what Terry could do to make it up to Jerry. And Terry asked if they could invite Jerry over to play the next day. Mom said yes, so Terry called Jerry back and invited them over. And the next day, they were able to play together, and Terry apologized again in person. Jerry accepted the apology, and they played happily the rest of the afternoon. Now, it's hard when we break a promise, because most of the time, it not only affects us, it affects someone else too, right? And that person may feel hurt when we break our promise. They may have been counting on us to help them in some way, and we let them down. It's important when we break a promise that we realize what we have done and talk about it with our friend or family member, that we understand how they feel about the broken promise. We might not realize how important that promise was to them. And then we can agree to try again. We do the same in our communities. As Unitarian Universalists, in our community here at church, we make promises to each other called covenants. Covenants are promises we make to the whole group about how we will behave and treat each other. We promise not to be mean and to listen to each other. We promise to take care of our church building. We promise to take care of each other. And when we break our covenant, we need to find a way to apologize and begin again with the whole community. And that's a lot harder than breaking a promise and fixing it with one person. But it is important. So the next time you break a promise, whether to your friend or to your community, think about what you can do to make it better and start over again. And remember that every time we break a promise, we can try to make it right again if we talk about it together.
All right. So I want a do-over, actually, because I said that pronouns were hard, and they really aren't. And so I wanted to clarify that we have habits and apologize, just like in the video, that I misspoke or I didn't think hard enough before I spoke, and just say that it's not that they're hard, it's that we have habits that we need to change. And that is a promise that I can make, is to keep doing better. And if I break it, I can say I'm sorry, right? And try to start over again. So let's form an arch and sing the children out.
Now is our invitation to generosity. Those of you in the sanctuary, of course, can open your wallets or your checkbooks if anybody still carries those old-fashioned things. And if you're like me and you like to do everything online, you can go to tahomauu.com. And up at the top of the screen, there's a button, a purple button that says Give. And if you click on that, it'll take you to, I'm doing it now, the page that tells you how to donate online. We appreciate it.
Please join me for our offering reading. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls.
Our meditation is a responsive reading. I'll be saying a part, and then the congregation response will be on the screen there. It will be the same response. This is a litany of atonement, a responsive reading by Reverend Bob Eller Isaacs. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible. For each time that we have struck out in anger without just cause. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others. For each selfishness which sets us apart and alone. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit. Forgive ourselves and each other. For losing sight of our unity. For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. Our reading is from Reverend Sarah Stewart, to remember our promises. Bring who you are as you enter our church this morning. Bring your best self and your struggling self. Bring your mistakes and your triumphs. Bring your shortcomings and your recommitment to good. Bring yourself here and open your heart to beauty, to truth, to the door that is open to the presence of God. Here in this church, we are trying to walk together on a peaceable way, trying to hammer out division and hatred and all that separates one from another. We try and we fall short, but held in love, we try again. We come together this morning as a church to bow our heads in prayer, to raise our voices in song, to remember our promises and vow to live by them once again. Our sermon this morning is brought to us through our Sermon of the Month with the UUA. We're very happy to bring to you Beth Casebolt, who is a member of Congregational Life with the UUA. And the sermon subject is, We Begin Again in Love. Please give your attention to the screen.
We all make promises. We make promises to ourselves. We make promises to our family members and friends. We make promises to our work colleagues and to the different communities we are members. We call promises by different names: commitments, covenants, agreements, resolutions, but they are all, at their core, still promises. We break promises as well. Think about yourself. When we start something new, we make promises. At the new year, we make resolutions about making changes in our lives. How long do your New Year's resolutions last? If you are like me, you are lucky to make it out of January before old habits start creeping in and those resolutions, promises, are gone. Our congregations are no different. Only here we call those promises covenants. Covenant. Covenant is one of the keystones of the Unitarian Universalist faith. It is an important part of our history, it is an important part of our present, and it's an important part of our future. What is covenant? This explanation comes from the Commission on Appraisal Report, Engaging Our Theological Diversity. They write, mutual promises flow from a shared covenant and draw Unitarian Universalists closer to our unifying core than individual claims can manage. Unitarian Universalism summons us to pledge our troth, an old-fashioned phrase that marries both truthfulness and trust to one another, forging our individual religious journeys together. Promises must be risked openly and publicly, unlike beliefs, which can be held in the privacy of one's own soul. Promises are fulfilled only in communal life. Promises require companions and signal institutional allegiance. Promises remind us that we are connected and beholden to sisters and brothers in our chosen faith. We are spiritual kin, bound together in the interdependent web. Promises support partnerships through fair and foul weather. Promises foster and sustain beloved communities. In reality, congregations, like couples, can crack and rupture for plenty of legitimate reasons. However, breakups frequently occur because life appears greener elsewhere, because conflicts escalate without redress, or simply because of boring stretches. Hence, mature promise-making encourages partners and parishioners to calm down, breathe deeply, and stay at the welcome table. Unitarian Universalist minister David Blanchard penned wisdom applicable to the covenantal bonds of all sorts in his meditation manual, A Temporary State of Grace. He wrote, "Do more than simply keep the promises made in your vows. Do something more. Keep promising. As time passes, keep promising new things, deeper things, vaster things, yet unimagined things, promises that will be needed to fill the expanses of time and of love. Keep promising." End quote. Promises remind us to remain firm, yet flexible, to choose again what we chose before. Promises prompt us to keep an evergreen awareness in our own interpersonal and institutional lives, to grow where we are planted, and as necessary, to do some repotting. Again, from Engaging Our Theological Diversity. So from this, we learn that covenants are an important piece of our faith. It's how we are together. It's how we stay together. It is what holds us as a community. We are a covenantal faith. There's that word again, covenant. We don't have a creed that we all state we believe that holds us together. Instead, it's our covenants. Covenants are important in our congregations, and we find them everywhere. We have covenants in all our RE classes that teachers and students are expected to abide by. We have behavioral covenants in our congregations that outline how we expect each other to act in our community. We have board covenants and committee covenants. But exactly how do we use these covenants? Do we revisit them, stay true to them, revise them when necessary? In a classroom setting, a covenant only stays effective for one church year. The next year, it's a new class and a new covenant is part of the first day's activities. When a new person joins the class, the covenant is reviewed and they are asked if they agree. Board covenants are reviewed each year when new members are elected and join the board. This offers an opportunity to talk about these promises and expectations and to reconsider them. Changes can be made because these are living documents. But what about our congregation-wide covenants, like our behavioral covenants? Do we revisit those on a regular basis? When was the last time you read your congregation's behavioral covenant, if you have one? Do we advise individuals about these covenants when they join and listen if they have objections? How do we manage these situations? Are these living documents? Are we making them an active part of our lives? And more importantly, what do we do when covenants of any type are broken? How do we repair and reform our community? This is the piece we seem to ignore. We make promises, but we don't consider what to do if the promises get broken. We have a hymn in our gray hymnal called Come, Come, Whoever You Are. It's a very familiar hymn to many of our members, and it's often sung as a representation of how accepting we are. We welcome everyone as they are. Did you know that this hymn is adapted from a poem by Rumi and a line has been left out? If you've sung this hymn in harmony, you know the missing line. The poem actually reads, "Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come even if you have broken your vow 100 times. Come, come again, come." Note what was left out of the hymn. Even if you have broken your vow 100 times. We welcome you, even if you have broken your promises. Why was that left out? Why don't we sing that line? It's as if we don't want to acknowledge that promises and covenants get broken. We are conflict avoidant, and we don't want to talk about the messy work of fixing things when they go wrong. Let's think about this. When we have a covenant in a classroom and someone breaks the covenant, what do? Usually the teacher, sometimes the student, says that's not part of our covenant, and the person who's broken the covenant says, "Oh, sorry," and stops the behavior, and everyone goes on. Problem solved. What happens when a board or committee covenant is broken? When someone comes to a meeting unprepared? When someone won't allow other opinions to be voiced during the meeting? When someone crosstalks during discussion? Do we call them on it? Do we point out their error? Or do we ignore it because we don't want to get confrontational or be in conflict? Do we hold the covenant sacred or give in to the discomfort? It varies depending on the personalities on the board or the committee, but unfortunately, more often than not, we ignore the behavior. And when we do that, the covenant no longer binds the group together. Some groups read their covenant at the start of every meeting as a reminder of what they have promised to do. Congregational covenants, such as behavioral covenants, often have a procedure or process of reconciliation that goes with them. Sometimes this is called a disruptive persons policy. Sometimes it involves a right relations team. But do we follow those? Or do we ignore the behavior that is in violation of the covenant in the interest of keeping the peace and only use the policy when behaviors are extreme? Is it because we don't want to be the person who pushed them out? We need to become better at calling those who have broken covenant back into covenant with us. We need to agree that a mistake has been made and that we are going to begin again in love. Those who have broken the covenant own and admit the mistake. Those who've been affected by the broken covenant forgive those who've broken it. Now, this isn't a perfect system, and it can take a long time to heal the wounds that a broken covenant has caused. These are not overnight fixes. We're human. We hold grudges. It's hard to forgive, and we don't like to admit when we're wrong. But it's how we go forward. It makes the process complete. Congregations are one of the few places in our lives we get to practice these skills, to apologize, to atone for our mistakes, to offer and grant forgiveness. When was the last time you did that outside of your faith community or your family? Rarely are these sorts of processes found outside of church anymore. This is how rules and covenants differ. Breaking rules usually requires some sort of punishment or loss of privileges. If you do X, you can no longer do Y. Covenants aren't the same. When a covenant is broken, the community calls the person back into covenant by asking the question, can you recommit to being with us under these guidelines again? Can we trust you? This method of conversation and learning to hold covenant is a skill our society is losing. Many of us are entrenched on our side in our beliefs, and we can't hear what the other person has to say. Covenants invite dialogue. Why do you feel that way? What brought you to that conclusion? How can we make this work for everyone? How do we forgive? How do we adapt and go forward? Covenants are the glue that hold us together. Recovenanting processes are skills that make living together as a community possible. And like other skills, coming back into covenant as a community is something we should plan a process for, be intentional about, practice, and review regularly. Does your congregation offer opportunities to be in dialogue and practice these skills? Doing this can be uncomfortable. We have to practice being in discomfort to make this work. Businesses and many other kinds of groups exist purely for the sake of accomplishing their stated goals. The people come together for the sake of one common purpose. For religious communities, on the other hand, being in community is its own goal. And since communities are made of imperfect creatures, falling short of that goal is inevitable. This means that any covenant that lacks a process for reconciliation will inevitably fail. Think about the community of your church and the smaller communities within it. What are the covenants that hold them together? Are they explicitly stated or not? Are they reviewed regularly? Or do members just assume someone new will figure it out on their own? And when someone falls out of covenant, when, not if, does the group know what to do to restore the community? As Rumi wrote, even if you have broken your vows 100 times, come, yet again, come. To be a living and healthy community, we need to be intentional about how to bring people back into the circle of caring and to begin again in love. Blessed be.
I invite you to take a deep breath. Settle into this moment. Time for reflection. Time for looking inside ourselves, finding opportunity. Whether we have transgressed and transgressed against, whether there are opportunities for us to recommit to promises and covenants in our lives. Set an intention for this week ahead, whether your practice is through prayer, meditation, silence, and hearing the voice of truth from inside yourself, whatever that is. Take a moment to set that intention. and may it be so. I'd like to invite you to stand in body or spirit, and we're going to sing our closing hymn, and we're going to do it with some energy, and that is Love Will Guide Us. So I want you to think of this with some conviction, maybe a little syncopation, and some spirit in your voice. Let's sing together hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Love will guide us, peace has dried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to grieving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deeply within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace will dry us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Yes. Chrissy, your closing words?
Sorry. Oh, all right, that's one way. Our closing words today come from the Reverend Krista Taves. The work we share. It is our work, shared with each other in covenant, that creates and sustains this beloved community. We extinguish this chalice, but its light lives on in the directions we have chosen today. The light of this faith lives on in us, together, in our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits. Amen, and blessed be. So Doug is going to extinguish the chalice, and then we read the words first. I always get it backwards. All right, join me in the chalice extinguishing words on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. All right, and if you will rise and join me in our closing blessing song. The words will appear on the screen, and there are hand motions if you so desire.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, from you I give, together we share, and by this we live. Friends, as we go out from our time together, from this sacred circle of spiritual community we create together, back out into the world which needs all of us, remember to keep alert to the way things truly are, both inside and outside yourself. Be firm in your faith, be courageous as often as you can, and start again today to try to let all that you do come from a place of love. Go in peace.
All right, one more service down.
Thank you.